So good morning or good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here with me today at my session called Oracy Activities to Stretch Your Learners. My name is Elisa Turri, and I teach English in a middle school in Busto Arsizio. Busto Arsizio is a small town in the north of Italy, halfway between Milan and Varese. I am a very happy teacher, and the activities, the strategies I will share with you today about Oracy are activities and strategies I do in class with my students every day, very practical. Oracy, what is Oracy? Oracy is mainly about our communication skills. Oracy is about speaking confidently in a variety of situations. So Oracy is about how we use our voice. It's about how clear we can be, how fluent we manage to be. It's also about our body language. It's about the eye contact we manage to establish with the people who are listening to us. It's about how we move during our talk while we are giving a presentations, for example. Oracy is also about the language we use, about the vocabulary choices we make, how appropriate they are. Oracy is also about how we organize our thoughts. It's about our reasoning, about giving reasons to support our views. It's about working with others in a group. It's about turn taking. It's about, therefore, listening actively while we are giving a presentation, for example, or when we are working with a group. It's about reading group dynamics and also facilitating decision making. So Oracy is really about a variety of skills. Now I will share very quickly a PowerPoint I have prepared. I apologize for my PowerPoint. My IT skills are not the best, but never mind. The skills I have just mentioned have been devised a few years ago by a school in collaboration with Cambridge University Press. This school was called School 21, and it's a school in east of London, in the east of London, for students, for children aged 4 to 18. And this school has a whole school culture of oracy. And in 2014, they worked with the University of Cambridge, and they established an oracy framework, an oracy curriculum for schools, with a whole set of assessment tools. And this project goes under the name of Voice 21. So Voice 21 identifies four oracy strengths. I like to call them four oracy skill areas: physical, linguistic, cognitive, and social emotional. The physical area, the physical strength is about mainly about our voice, how we manage to project our voice. It's about how we use body language. It's about how we maintain eye contact. The linguistic strand, the linguistic area skill, is about the appropriate vocabulary choice we can manage to make. The cognitive area skill is about how able we are to structure our ideas when we are giving a talk. For example, how able we are to give reasons to support our views. The social and emotional aerial skill is about working with others. So, for example, turn taking. When we are working with a group, it's about our confidence in speaking, and it's also about listening and responding. So how aware we are of our listeners, and how we can incorporate our response to that of the people who are listening to us. So I think Oracy is really a very complex set of skills. It's about speaking, yes, but not just speaking. It's about also listening, and it's about creating a meaningful, purposeful communication. I will share with you today 9 Oracy, I like to call them routines or activities that you can do in class every day, no problem. They are all very practical, and many of them I like to think are fun. Some of them are competitive. Most of them generate positive discussion in the classroom, and provide an opportunity for rich discussion. They are all speaking activity. They are great for putting across opinion, for articulating ideas with sometimes vocal, visual, or verbal aids. And you can adapt them to your students, to your classes, their age, and of course, their English. I think it's very important when you work on Oracy that you give your students, and that you practice with your students the functional language they need to, for example, give opinions, to structure and organize a talk. It's important the students have and practice the language to agree and disagree, the language to take turns in group work, the language to ask questions when they need something to be explained or to be clarified. Students also need the language to respond to positive feedback or to give feedback. So before you start any activity, I think it's really important you find time and place to work on functional language, and that you work on word banks, on language word banks with your students, to give them the functional language they need to give a presentation, for example, or to work in groups. This is absolutely essential. So they need the language to make talk visible. They need to have the language to, for example, when they give their opinion, to say, in my opinion, or according to me, I think that. They need the language to structure, to organize a talk. So they need those words like first, next, then. For example, on the one hand, on the other hand, also, finally, in conclusion, they need this language. They also need the language to be able to agree or disagree, to participate in a discussion. So they know to be able to produce sentences like, what do you think? Do you agree? I agree because, I don't agree because. That's a good point. Yes, but they also need to be able to use the right language in turn taking. So, for example, whose turn is it? It's my turn. It's your turn. They also need to produce spontaneously the language for active listening. So things like, oh, I see. That's interesting. That's a good idea. Really? Very useful is also the language to ask questions to understand better. Those things like, can you repeat that, please? I don't understand. Can you speak up, please? Why did you say that? They also need to be able to give and respond to positive feedback. So to produce language like, oh, that's a good point, great idea, good job, great job, nice. And when they give a presentation, they need sentences to introduce their presentation, for example. So things like, my presentation is about, I'm going to talk you about, do you have any questions? So it's really vital that students have practice and use the functional language to speak with others. A very interesting point about oracy, about speaking and working with others, is to use talk groupings. Different talk groupings are suited to various types of spoken activities. So I think it's vital to think about the types of conversation we want our students to have, and to try out some different types of groupings. There are many. Pair, of course, where when you have pairs, obviously we have two students talking together. In trios, you have three students. Two students have a discussion, and the third student observes, summarizes, and critiques at the end of the activity. Another great talk grouping is the traverse. With the traverse, students stand in two parallel lines opposite a partner. So they speak opposite a partner. In the circle, I suggest you do this with, say, 6 or 8 students. Students face each other in a circle, and they step inside the circle when it's their time to speak, one at a time, and they speak to the whole group. This is very good to establish and to keep eye contact, and to improve confidence in speaking. In a nest, students stand apart from each other and whisper their ideas to themselves before speaking with the group. There are many others, like the fishbowl or the onion. What I suggest is that you use a variety of talk groupings during your Oracy activities, and that you identify which one suits the Oracy or the spoken activity best. So have a go at them and decide which one you prefer, which one suits your Oracy activity best. Oracy is about speaking, but it's also about thinking. It's also about structuring your ideas. So a very basic Oracy activity or strategy is think, pair, share. Think, pair, share is a cooperative learning strategy that works really well in any classroom and in any subject, not just English. The strategy is very basic. You ask an open-ended question to your students. They think quietly about it for a minute or two, and then every student pairs up with a partner, and they then discuss the question for a few minutes in pairs. Then the whole class engages in a discussion. Students raise their hands and they share all the thoughts and the ideas they have gathered in pairs. This strategy is very effective. Students feel much safer and much more relaxed when talking in pairs rather than having to speak in front of the entire class. And it gives them an opportunity to have time to think by themselves and then to share their thoughts with a partner before sharing with the whole class. The next activity is a great favorite of mine, and it's called keep talking. I've heard other people calling it just a minute or feelers beware. This is a competitive activity, and it's designed to promote fluent talk and to avoid filler phrases like you know what I mean. What you do is you ask a volunteer to stand up in front of the class and to talk about anything for a minute, for 60 seconds. What I suggest and what I usually do with my students is use some sentence stems to generate this 1 minute speaking. Students are given a point for every second they speak for, but they will lose a point every time they use a filler phrase. So, for example, a student who speaks for 60 seconds without any filler will get 60 points. How students who runs out of things to say at 40 seconds and uses 5 filler phrases will get 40 points. These are some of some sentence stems I use with my students in class. One is, I'm moving next week. This is the beginning of their speech. Or, I saw him again or her again this morning. I don't know what to do about it. I can't stand my new teacher. These are just some ideas. I'm sure you will have your own. The next activity is called the extended answer. This exercise, this activity, helps to develop extended answers from students. Students are not allowed to answer the questions you ask with words like yes or no. A volunteer is seated in front of the class while the teacher or the students ask questions. When the teacher in the chair makes some mistakes and uses words like yes or no, another student replaces them. Some of the questions I ask my students are, did you have a nice weekend? They cannot use the words yes or no. They have to tell about their weekend, producing full sentences, as many as they can. You could decide to give them a time or not, but they cannot use yes or no. Or have you ever had an English breakfast? Will you learn another language in the future? They have to reply to answer your questions, but they cannot use yes or no. For and against. This is similar to a debate. I'm sure you're familiar with the idea of a debate, but this is a very simplified version. For and against. The aim of this activity is for students to take a position on an issue that then they back up with evidence to support their views. What you have to do is you ask each student to create both a reason for and a reason against each statement. Students have to stand and then to sit down once they have spoken. So this is great to develop confidence in speaking. Some statements that I have used successfully in class are, it's okay to keep an animal as a pet. School holidays should be longer. School uniform is essential. Students should be able to use the internet unsupervised during school hours. Remember, students have to create a reason both and a reason against each statement. You could give them some time, or you could make this really quick. It all depends on how much pressure you want to put your students under. The next activity is called What I Dream Of. The aim of this activity is to share, in a funny way, this can become very ironical, a personal dream and two compromises. So each student is given time to think of the answers to the following statements, and they are linked. I dream of. And then they reveal what they dream of. Their dream can be about anything. It can be about school, can be about their plans for the day, can be about the job they would like to do in the future, can be about what they would like to have today for lunch or dinner. The second statement is, I would settle for, I would go for. And then they finish with, but I am more likely to get. The example I'm giving you is about food. So the one I give my students is, I dream of eating McDonald's. I would settle for a Burger King, but I'm more likely to get beans on toast, or I'm more likely to get a salad. Again, this is meant to be fun, but you can make it serious. It's up to you. You're free to decide, of course. The next activity is called I Couldn't Disagree more. This activity is about how students interact with the other side of an opinion and how they disagree. The idea in this activity is that students have to disagree with the argument, with the statement you give them. So students hear the statement, the argument. They then have a few moments to collect their thoughts, and then they have to disagree, stating why, providing a reason why. And students should respond with the following opening sentence: I couldn't disagree more. These are some of the statements that I have used in class. Remember, your students have to disagree. We should all wash our hands regularly, or we should all shower every day. I think school is very important. This activity is really challenging because it's obvious that we tend to agree with the statements we give them, but they have to switch and to interact with the other side of the opinion. They have to think outside the box. They have to disagree with the statement. This is really a great activity, and students will become very creative with their language and with their reasoning. This is one of my favorites. The last strategy I would like to share with you is connected to the first one. We have to develop an habit not just to use the functional language to work in a group, but also we have to develop an habit to reflect on talk, to reflect on our ability to work with a group. So I think it's important we encourage our students to reflect on their participation in our sessions, and to think on what they said, how they said it. So this is an example on assessment on working in groups. So you can discuss with your students how well or how much they talked in their group today, or if they managed to talk to the whole class, if they had good ideas, if they stayed on task, if they helped and encouraged other people, if they helped plan and organize the work, if they listened to other people, if they did their fair share of the work, if they decided together. I hope I have managed to give you some practical, fun ideas that you will be able to do with your students, to share with your students every day, and that I have given you a brief but meaningful insight into Oracy. Oracy is not just about speaking, it's so much more. It's a variety of skills. Some are physical, some are linguistic, some are cognitive, some are social, emotional. Please feel free to get in touch with me. I think you will be able to access the PowerPoint that I have used with you today. My email address is on the PowerPoint, so please feel free to get in touch, to ask any questions. And thank you for choosing to be here with you today. Enjoy the rest of the conference and happy teaching. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.